Hello, cats and kittens, and welcome back to Feline Detective, or Feline Forensics, and the Meowseum Mystery. And my OBS is looking a little weird, but looks like the stream is looking okay. So let us continue what we played. We played this last week, and what we did was find our computer password. It's kind of a tutorial. And then we learned that the Meowseum had an object go missing and a murder. Bum bum bum. And it's kind of a noir feel, so I decided to go ahead and use this model because she has kind of a noir feel. Also a little crazy. If you look at the eyes, they're very wide and I don't know, just kind of fun. Just hydrating. Welcome in, Invalid ID, and thank you for redeeming a kitty bonk. His Royal Majesty welcomes you to the stream, or to the sunbeam, but he's not in his bed, so there will not be a Benny Cam today. Because the Benny Cam would just be an empty bed, because he's not lying in it. So we were interviewing all the patrons in the museum that were there. The museum locked down when everything went down because they have a very sophisticated security system. And so everyone was essentially trapped inside until the museum employees let them out. So we have interviewed quite a few of the patrons. See if I can remember the buttons. Look, it's a map, which I had the whole time last time and still managed to not use it. Let's see. There we are. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I need to look at the actual... Yeah, well, I made it a while ago, but this is the first stream I've used it on. She doesn't have a tail, unfortunately. I could attach a tail, but all the tails are not quite in this art style. I figured this art style really fits with the film noir feel. Even if this is silly film noir, it's still film noir-ish. So I thought that this would work. Thank you. It's called Ink, and I'll be putting the link to the artist's Ko-Fi because this is a customizable. All of my models, except for the Blinky one that I've been using the past couple streams, are customizable. The Blinky one was actually custom made for me by Variant DM. Okay, the music is really loud to me. Hopefully it's not too loud to you, but I am turning my headset down. There we go. Now it's not so overwhelming. And I don't have to try to remember the keys, I just have to remember to look at the screen and hit the buttons that it says to hit. There we go. Cause for alarm. I guess the museum did recall hearing an alarm. But I should continue to learn more. Caught on film. While collecting some initial statements, the tourist mentioned an accident with their camera and the podcaster. Haven't met the podcaster yet. They're in a room I have yet to get to, who was also in the courtyard at the time. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, so I should get the podcaster's side of the story too. Ideally, they'll align perfectly, but I have my doubts. When presented with the obvious concerns of camera use in a museum, the tourist denied doing so. They said that there was no film. The missing gemstone. Curator's primary and only concern was identifying the culprit behind the attempted heist of the incredibly valuable diamonds from the museum's natural history exhibit. Apparently, the museum is equipped with a state-of-the-art security system which would likely provide more concrete evidence about what happened here. One moment, please. I don't remember how to mute. And I can't see the button on my mic. I have a cheat sheet of how to all my keys. There we go. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. One of these days, I will get a stream deck set up and not have to worry about finding all my hotkeys. Okay, apparently the museum is equipped with a state-of-the-art security system which would likely provide more concrete information about what happened here. Goes without saying, but I should probably start with investigating the actual crime scene, which I have yet to even get to. Is there a way I could access the security system's data? Maybe not, but it's worth looking into. The murdered guest. Alongside the attempted heist, there was an apparent murder that took place. It didn't seem like the curators... Oh, watch streak! Congratulations on a 3-stream streak. I guess my surprise stream when I played Flock Around, I think it was called, with taking pictures of birds. That might be why you reset, because I know you had already gotten 3 streams, so I'm sorry about that. But my friend Rio was streaming, and she was playing a game. They were playing a game that people could join in on. So I joined in, and I was like, "Hey, why not stream it?" So, and then I didn't switch my microphone on OBS, and so I was all just them talking to me, but my voice wasn't picked up. So it's very funny. It's on YouTube, and I think it might still be available on Twitch if you want to watch the VOD. It was a very cute game. Taking pictures of birdies. Alright. We can rebuild. Alright, so there's a bloody knife. I don't remember finding a bloody knife. Maybe the question mark means that we're looking for the weapon. Investigations along this lead should begin with the actual crime scene, as always. I hope it isn't too gruesome. I've taken the old-timer's initial statements, which included arguments and altercations he had with the victim. They weren't the most forthcoming, so I should assume there's plenty of details conveniently omitted. I'll need to collect more evidence before I press them further. And then we have a little picture of like the monkey versus the dog, and little arrow indicating someone falling off the balcony or something. Knocked over stanchions and crooked exhibits. I think the stanchions are the like where there's a pole and then like a rope, or usually it's not literally a rope, but whatever, the where bank lines, the corrals that people have to go in line in. Crooked exhibits make it seem like the victim likely fell from above the scene. And meeting our suspects. Upon entering the museum, I was greeted by the curator, who gave me an overview of the incident that occurred just hours earlier. The museum doesn't employ more than 2 people, the guard and the guide, not including the curator, of course. Snooty and self-indulgent, the critic and the old-timer are quite the duo. It seems they're in attendance together. One museum attendee is a chronic traveler, the tourist. Are they hiding something under all that charm? Not a pair of socialites, the artist and the student each gave off quite odd yet different first impressions. I should inquire with them for more specific detail, but I also need to speak with everyone else who is present, meaning I need to go to the other rooms. And... here we go. This is the one with all the information about the various guests. And the artist wants to... possible motive: revolutionize art by turning a famous museum exhibit into a commentary of capitalism. Prior to the incident, he was counting the bones of the various skeletons from the balcony of the natural history exhibit. Afterwards, he went to the courtyard balcony and became mesmerized watching the colorful swinging pendulum. When an argument started in the fine art gallery, he decided to head downstairs away from the noise. Now in the courtyard's lower level, a gunshot was heard, sending the guard barreling through the room towards the fight upstairs. He then continued into the empty foyer in an attempt to leave the now dangerous premises, but found the front door was already on lockdown. Moments later, the tourist rushed in, but he informed him that the door was already on lockdown, leaving them stuck inside. 90-second ad break is starting, so in a little bit, there's going to be a 90-second ad break. Moments later, the tourist rushed in, but he informed him that the door was already on. Blah. With the alarm blaring and the museum on lockdown, the curator returned to the foyer to call authorities and told him to stand by till they arrived. Okay. Oops, I went down. I just want to go down from the top. The critic. Potential motive. Add the priceless gemstone to his prestigious personal collection. And it looks like we have one with a question there. It's circled. Arrived at the museum intending to write and publish a critique by the request of the curator, with the old-timer as a guest perspective on the article. Began discussing the various pieces in the sculpture exhibit with the guide, which we need to investigate that because there's a red circle. Overhearing the old-timer in a heated disagreement upstairs, he left the guide to investigate and likely diffuse the situation. When he arrived at the top of the stairs into the fine art gallery, he heard a sound of someone being slammed against a wall. He hurriedly continued towards the courtyard balcony when a gun was fired with a cacophonous bang. Finally on the scene, it seemed the struggle had just concluded. He rushed to the side of the old-timer to make sure they were okay. Took the old-timer back into the fine art gallery to sit them down and recover before getting their stories straight. The ad break is finishing now. Welcome back from ads. We're just going over stuff we learned last week anyways, so we have one thing to investigate on this page, but I want to go down the list to just see what we've got and recap, basically. The curator. Potential motive. Sell off the rare gemstone in an insurance fraud or embezzlement scheme. Prior to the incident, they were welcoming guests into the museum alongside the guard. When the argument began upstairs, they told the guard not to make a scene and let it handle itself. Although when it escalated far enough that a gun was fired, they ran from the foyer. The curator went to check on the guide in the sculpture exhibit. The guide wasn't there, but the guard had found her in antiquities, stunned and unmoving, and called for the curator to come quick. Their efforts to get the guide to come to weren't working, but when the alarm sounded, the guide snapped to and told them to call the authorities immediately. The curator rushed back into the foyer where the tourist and the artist insisted they release the museum's lockdown. Without knowing who was the real culprit, the curator refused to let anyone leave and called the authorities to come sort it out. The guard. Potential motive. Create an unsolvable mystery, a perfect crime, to promote the museum. Prior to the incident, they were welcoming guests into the museum and charging admission alongside the curator. When an argument began upstairs, he was told by the curator to let it handle itself and not make a scene. This one we have to revisit. However, when a gunshot was heard, he stormed off into and through the courtyard towards the shocking sound. Now in the antiquities exhibit, he discovered the guide was locked in place, stunned. He called for the curator to come check on her. Just as he began to continue his pursuit, the sound of glass shattering and the museum's alarm diverted him into the natural history exhibit. He arrived to the exhibit at the same time as the podcaster, who, upon questioning, didn't seem to know much about what had happened. With no clear danger still present, he moved back into the foyer to call the authorities, but found the curator had already done so. The guide. Potential motive. Donate the precious jewel to a greater humanitarian cause. Because if you remember, the guide does not feel comfortable having like the cultural exhibits, basically exhibiting stuff from different cultures, because that stuff should belong to those cultures. But on the other side, like a Libra, gotta have more than one hand. It does expose other people to those cultures, so people can learn about those cultures. So there's good and bad on that. Throughout the day, she attempted to offer tours to the various guests, but to no avail, although she said this wasn't unusual. That being said, when the critic arrived, he instigated an intellectual conversation with the guide that felt more like a challenge than a well-spirited debate. However, overhearing the old-timer in a heated argument upstairs, the critic decided to go investigate. She didn't refuse. When he left, the guide followed towards antiquities with the intent to ask the belligerent pair to leave when they came back down. Moments later, the horrifying sound of a gunshot ran throughout the museum, leaving the guard paralyzed in anxious fear. The curator discovered the guide in this stunned state and attempted to rouse her. Unsuccessful in doing so, the curator left the guide prioritizing the museum and went to call the authorities from the foyer. The old-timer, potential motive, undermined the museum's reputation in revenge for betraying the golden age of art. Also because they never showed his pieces. The old-timer began their trip to the museum by leisurely looking over the various exhibits with the critic until they decided to start challenging the guide. With no interest in the conversation, he went upstairs into the fine art gallery, where the punk began to antagonize him with petty comments. He assumed that the punk would back down when met with a bit of opposition, but when he barked at him, the punk pulled out a gun. The two broke out into a scuffle that took them from the fine art gallery out on the courtyard balcony where other guests looked on from below. The fight continued to escalate, leading the punk to slam the old-timer into the wall, but he didn't let up. Amidst the struggle, the punk fired the gun but missed his target. The old-timer then disarmed him with ease. With the punk presumably subdued, the critic shuffled the old-timer back into the fine art gallery where he tended to his minor injuries. The podcaster we haven't met yet, but it looks like the podcaster is an owl. I know the podcaster is an owl because I saw Gab Smulders play this. I generally try not to watch stuff like a mystery type of thing, but I didn't realize she would be so much farther ahead than I got, so I have seen some stuff, but it's okay. We'll reveal as we come across stuff. So the punk motive? ? Well, he's unalive, so I don't know what motive he'd have. In the fine art gallery, the punk provoked the old-timer with an incendiary comment about classical art, inciting their argument. When the old-timer pressed the punk further in an attempt to get him to back off, the punk brandished a gun. Physical altercation then broke out between them, leading them onto the courtyard balcony, where the punk slammed the old-timer into the wall. In the continued scuffle, the punk fired his gun, but missed his intended target before dropping the weapon as a result of the unexpected recoil. Disoriented, the punk backpedaled towards the balcony of the natural history exhibit, then over the edge. The fall was fatal. The student. Potential motive? Sell off the precious gemstone to pay off his overwhelming debts. He entered the museum, paid admission, and eventually found his way into the natural history exhibit. That is incorrect. It doesn't have a red circle around it yet because it hasn't gotten the contradictory information, but the student mentioned that it was free. And I remember making a point of that. He mentioned it was free because he was there to meet somebody from online and said that it was good that there was a free place for him to be stood up in, rather than a place that he had to pay for. So we know that one's incorrect. He overheard an argument begin upstairs, but didn't think much of it and continued looking at the various exhibits. When it sounded like the argument had escalated to a physical level, he decided to move quickly towards the foyer and leave. It was then that he heard the gunshot, causing him to hesitate at the sound. It was then the alarm was triggered, locking the door just moments before he could escape. Cornered, fearful, and sensing a greater possible threat, the student retreated into the sculpture exhibit. Now in the sculpture exhibit, the student attempted to hide as he heard the terrible sound of shattering glass. The tourist. Motive. Potential motive. Finish one last job for a criminal organization. Prior to the incident, he was in the courtyard with the podcaster discussing retro photography equipment and techniques. When an altercation broke out on the balcony above, the tourist handed off his camera to the podcaster in order to call out and quell the brawlers. Just as he noticed they were fighting over a gun, it was fired. The tourist made an effort to block the podcaster, who then dropped his camera. A brief moment later, the guard came running into the courtyard, but didn't stop to listen to the tourist explain what was happening. Apparently there's another talking point that I haven't gotten to yet. When it became clear that he had made his way to and over the natural history exhibit balcony, the podcaster returned the camera and took off towards the punk. He decided to escape, but when he arrived in the foyer, the artist informed him that the alarm had already placed the museum on lockdown. So we had a couple things to revisit. Here we are. So, when a gunshot was heard, he stormed off into and through the courtyard towards the shocking sound. The guard. I believe it was the student? Okay. We can dispute this with testimonies. Let's see. I think, was it the artist? It's been a week. Ah, I see. That makes sense. The guard didn't move straight through the courtyard. He bumped into the artist on the way. Oh, that's right, because the artist was making a point of how nobody ever sees him. In fact, the guard pretty much bowled him over. And then didn't even mention him when he was giving his testimony. While that might seem minor, the most minor details can turn an entire case upside down. Okay, so that should be... He began to continue the sound of diverted natural history. Oh, tripping over the artist along the way. Yep, there it is. It's there now. Okay, so who else had one? Began discussing the various pieces in the sculpture exhibit with the guide. Well, let's check. Maybe it's the guide had something contradictory? Yes. I see. That makes sense. This may not be necessarily have been a lie, but it certainly speaks to the critic's sensibilities. At least his testimony seems to line up otherwise. So basically, the way the guide and the critic saw the conversation was different from each perspective, and that makes sense. Alright, what have we got in evidence? Nothing! That's why it's not showing that I have anything there. I already looked at everything in here? I think so, yeah. I remember looking at the old TVs. Okay. That's the exit. See, I don't remember which door I came in. Where does this go? I have a map. I should have looked. Okay, the artist. We already talked to the artist. Now let's open up. Was this the map? Yeah, this shows me where I am. Well, that doesn't help. But I know I need to look at the bone exhibits, so I need to go that way. So we'll go through the room with the fountain. What? There we go. Oh, I've already talked to the tourist, and that's why the mobile. You can see the pendulum swinging. That's why the color was shifting before. I mentioned that before. See, did I read this plaque? The plaque reads, "On the Essence of Color" by Sir Robert Krokstein von Lillipad de Wort 4. The nasty world of noir gray via crystal of color. Alright. This is where we need to go. Alright, this definitely seems to be the epicenter of our case. Looks like the victim there lying on their back, just south of a destroyed display case that stands in the exact middle of the room. Several dotted blood splatters across the floor, along with a few pieces of what appears to be stone debris. Other artwork looks to be unaffected, and a witness at the scene. No shortage of places to start, so let's get to it. So let's look at the body. This has always been my least favorite part of the job. Victim presents male, likely mid-20s in age. 4 facial piercing and wearing a leather jacket. Initial signs show 2 impact wounds to the back of the head. All things considered, minimal blood loss. And, nothing on his person. No wallet, keys, not even an ID. Poor guy. I'll figure out what happened here, don't worry. This is the pedestal where the stolen gemstone was once displayed. What should I investigate here? The exhibit placard. The plaque reads Optimus Diamond circa 1700. Where could you be hiding, precious little stone? The broken case. Seems like a classic smash and grab. There are stones strewn across the floor, so it's possible the thief used them to break the glass case. I'll put this statue chunk into evidence, just in case I learn anything from looking it over. It doesn't seem like there's any other incriminating details here, though. Never that easy anymore, is it? I don't know about any more. I don't think a murder investigation should ever be easy. The plaque reads, "Mosquito preserved in amber, discovered in Southeast Asia." Who knows what sort of horrible things this bug could be carrying? Ancient plagues, mind control curses, dinosaur theme parks. I suppose we should all consider ourselves lucky this wasn't the exhibit to break. Yeah, probably. We've got a lot of exclamation marks over there for stuff to look at. Plaque reads, Tyrannosaurus skeleton of the Cretaceous period. Iconic dinosaur, but I much prefer the Stegosaurus. Even a Triceratops would rank higher, personally. Plaque reads, collection of ancestor tools discovered across multiple regions. I wonder what the predecessors would think if they saw what we carve from stone nowadays. Probably think all these sculptures in the other exhibit were wildly impractical. Yeah, probably. But they had their own art. Maybe they'd understand. The plaque reads, an Edi Plateau carven painting circa 6000 BC. Questions like, how could they possibly have transported this cave rock aren't even worth asking. There's bugs. Plaque reads, collection of pinned beetles originally researched in Eastern Asia. I'd rather not look at this too long. Oh, does our detective not like bugs? More bugs. Butterflies. Plaque reads, collection of pinned butterflies originally researched in North America. I much prefer my butterflies unpinned and flying. And alive. Very true. The plaque reads, spiritual stones circa 1998. Legend of Zelda. Legends say you can time travel one whole dog year with these. Keep turning the wrong way. Okay, here we go. Plaque reads, amethyst geode sustainably sourced from Central Europe. Mother Goose's creations have an unparalleled beauty. I think it's interesting that they've made Mother Goose essentially the deity, like Gaia or something. The plaque reads, mammoth tusk circa 3000 BC. Imagine the size of the elephant folk attached to this. Plaque reads, collection of ancestor skulls discovered across multiple regions. There's so much about the ancient civilizations that we still don't know, and I guess we never will. Really makes you think, huh? Alright, is that all the exhibits? Oh wait, I haven't... Yeah, I looked at the dinosaur. But I can't look up. I want to see the prisms. But, okay. Time to talk to the podcaster after I take a drink. Actually, let's look at... Because we have we have the exclamation marks showing that we have something new. It's just snooty and self-indulgent. Maybe here. Complex crime scene, including the victim, a broken display case, several large stone pieces, and one first-hand witness that we're about to talk to. That's probably the new stuff there. Yep, the exclamation mark went away. You can't see it because I'm in front, but it's there. Probably to the museum alone. Provoke the old timer. Looks like SiriBot deleted a spam. Okay, Punk backpedaled. I don't know if any of that is new. Okay, we haven't talked to the podcaster yet. Oh, it still went away. So I guess we're done. Now we actually have something in evidence, which is the stone. Oh, it's like the Eastern Island stone things. Or Easter Island. Eastern Island. Oh, there's something there. What is that? Well, of course. I knew there was something else here. While it may have broken further in the fall, it was certainly destroyed prior, assuming at least that this is the flattened tip of some ammunition. I wonder where the case is hidden. Finding that could help me track down the murder weapon. Okay, so I guess that was supposed to be a bullet. And that's not the only thing in evidence. What else? Checkum stone that was once part of a museum exhibit before being destroyed. A fragment of art, an art piece carved from stone and depicting the facial structure of an ancient species. It's believed that the largest versions were used as symbolic and ritualistic monuments. Despite their durability, there are not many still in existence. However, especially at this site, and now, unfortunately, there's one less. It seems a bullet struck the piece, breaking it into several segments. This knocked it from the balcony, where it became fractured further. Such a shame. Okay, so that should make... Yep, that went away. So now we just have... we haven't done any of this. So earlier tonight, the... Let's go to... Okay, we're starting with the old timer. Because it's ending up with who surprisingly had a... That's going to be a gun. So I'm thinking this is the stuff about the punk. Okay. Locations. They started in a fine art exhibit? Right. We just read all of that. I'm gonna say fought. And we have a gun here. Alright, so maybe it's only argued instead of fought? Yep, okay. Okay, this is where fought is. They fought in the... exhibit? And ad break is starting soon. So you'll be off to ads soon. And eventually the blank from the blank from the pivot. The only one who did anything was the punk. The punk. He's not... I was gonna say fell from the balcony, but that's not one of the words there, so... But he fell from the courtyard balcony. Okay, that's not... We don't have the words for that. Okay, so... The Ad break is starting. Led by the curator, the museum staff. This is just like process of elimination here. Museum staff also included the loyal guard. And the knowledgeable guide. Suspects and witnesses included the eccentric Bitter, distinguished. Okay, Bitter's gonna be the old timer. Wait, we're still on people. Okay, so we're gonna put Bitter, old timer, because he was bitter. Critic was distinguished. Also included the anxious mouse, so he was the student. The jolly tourist. And given that the artist didn't want to give much information about themselves, we'll say reserved. That leaves the one we haven't met yet. Someone blank from the... And the ad break is finishing. Welcome back. Okay. Maybe someone hid. Objects. Yeah, we don't have all the words for this yet, so let's go ahead and talk to the podcaster. Process of elimination, that's the only person this could be. Hiya, detective. I just want to say it's like so awesome to meet a real, almost somewhat famous Philadelphian investigator in person. Oh, and I absolutely cannot wait to tell you all about my show. Would you be willing to do an interview? I'm sorry, your show? I'm a true crime podcaster. It's called Tales of the Dark and Desperate, and this episode is about to go hella viral. Wait. Are you recording right now? No, I didn't bring my equipment. Ugh, what an absolute rookie mistake. Like 5 listeners an episode level amateur. By the way, you should seriously subscribe. You have your phone on you, right? Just let me look myself up and hit the button quick. No big deal. I actually don't keep a mobile phone on me. Personal technology would be a distraction at the crime scene. Oh, that is actually so sad. Okay, we have things to discuss. Let's stay on topic, please. Like, whatever you need, detective. Let's start with the personal questions this time. Oh, like, totally. Who are you? Oh, come on, detective. I told you about my podcast. Are you saying you didn't go and read my bio? If you're not a big reader, watch my daily vlog. That'll give you the general vibe. Well, it was gonna be daily. Then it was weekly. But now I just kind of post whatever. The last one is pretty old, so it'll be out of date, but... Apologies, but I am not going to watch your vlog. So please, if you would provide a brief answer to the question, that would be appreciated. Ugh, rude! The least you could do is submit your questions to my Word vlog. You can do it anonymously if you want. I'm sorry, but isn't a vlog just a video blog? So a Word vlog is a normal vlog? Actually, never mind. I've learned plenty. Let's change topics. Like, whatever you need, detective. Oh, like, totally. It's one of those catchphrases I would use to slip into a Valley Girl accent if I had a Valley Girl accent. I have a true crime podcast called Tales of the Dark and Desperate, so make sure to totally obliterate that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Wait, haven't I told you about this already, detective? You have. I was asking more about what you do in a professional sense. Are you trying to say that what I do isn't professional enough? Ha! Gotcha. Oof. Too easy, detective. I work at a coffee shop, but that's like so boring. Punch in, punch out. You know how it is. But after this episode absolutely pops off, I'm gonna quit so fast. Or at least, like, quite quit. I still need health insurance or whatever. Of course. Why don't we talk about something else now? Like, whatever you need, detective. Oh, like, totally. About true crime. You have quite a passionate interest. Why is that? Oh, I know a trick question when I hear one, detective. Of course I love crime. Crime solving? Crime solving. Do you have a background in criminology? That sounds like a question I can only answer behind the paywall. Did you know you can unlock great perks like this on my... That won't be necessary. By the long paw of the law, let's stay on topic. Well, you know, true crime isn't trendy, so that was a good start. But then, I don't know, it was generally fascinating. In all honesty, I'm pretty normal, and my life has been, like, pretty easy. There's people out there that have definitely not have it easy. Trying to step into the shoes of a criminal is one thing, but thinking about everyone around them, that's different. It's just easy to think, this wouldn't happen to me, until it does. True crime lets you really reflect on unrealistic situations that are very real. That's actually quite insightful. If you want to know more, make sure to wickedly whack that follow. Yes, that. There's another question I have for you. Like, whatever you need, detective. Okay, so that's done because it was gray. Oh, wait. Hey there, detective. I have some questions for you, and please keep all of this between us. For sure. What were you doing? I was mostly just wandering around, but when I got to the courtyard, I saw the tourist had this dope retro camera. We were just kind of going back and forth on old school photography techniques. Stuff like that was huge on Finstagram a couple of years ago. Then we got interrupted by that argument. He handed me the camera while he tried to break it up from down here, but they weren't interested in listening. I see. I assume you gave the camera back to him at some point, yes? Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know what that was. I went from trying to do Valley to Minnesota. Don't you know? For sure. But not right away, because things really started getting out of control. Well, in that case, I have a couple more questions for you. Like, whatever you need, detective. Oh my gosh. I remember it so vividly. If only I was recording. My audience really likes authentic audio. That gunshot would get me so many upvotes. Blammo! And that's when things really popped off, you know? I couldn't really see much up there though, and when the guard ran through, he and the tourists were so frantically scattered, I pretty much tuned them out. Besides, we all heard glass break in the next room over, and I need to get a first-hand account of things. Fame isn't for the fond-hearted, detective. I ran from the courtyard and saw the punk lying there. It seemed like he fell from the balcony. I rushed over to check on him, but he was so dead. And what of the diamond? It was already gone. I explained that to the guard when he came in. Then I guess he went off to go search for it someplace else. I figured, with the alarm going off, I wouldn't be able to leave anyway, so I just sat tight and waited in here. Okay, I think I have some follow-up questions. Like, whatever you need, detective. About the guard. He said you both entered the exhibit simultaneously, but this contradicts your testimony. Why the inconsistency? I don't know what you want me to say, detective. I told you everything I know already. I came in, saw the diamond was gone, took a quick look over the body, and the guard came running in after. If I was gonna lie, wouldn't it make more sense for me to agree with the guard? I'm admitting to having no witnesses. I suppose you're right. So the diamond really was missing when you arrived. Yeah. Okay, fine. I'll ask some different questions instead. Like, whatever you need, detective. Additional details only if you subscribe. Just kidding. About the victim, you mentioned he had already fallen from the balcony above. Did you do any closer examination than that? Why do you ask? Thing is, he didn't have anything on him. Not even a wallet, no ID. Doesn't that seem strange to you? Oh, detective, that's because I, gathered them for you ahead of time so you wouldn't miss anything. Is that so? Tampering with a crime scene can be a serious offense, you know. I'm just looking to make sure that my, model isn't covering the detective. So. But I wasn't tampering, it was assisting. I know about standard procedure, so I just, went ahead and did it for you. That's all it was. That's all it was, huh? Lying to an authority of the law is also quite an offense. Okay. I took his stuff because it would have been amazing promo material. You can't blame me for trying to fabricate a viral sensation, detective. And besides, what if he had been stabbed and I needed to stop the bleeding? That logic doesn't even... You know what? I've got other things to discuss with you, and then I'll be on my way. Whatever you need, detective. Additional details only if you subscribe. Camera! You mean the tourist camera? Aw, that thing was so nice. I wish I could afford one, but they're so vogue right now. Yes, that one. You mentioned looking over it. Did you notice if it had any film? Oh, it must have! Didn't I tell you what happened when I dropped it before? Neither of you mentioned dropping the camera, no. Whoops, silly me. Well, you remember the gunshot, right? Blammo and all that? That didn't bother me at all, I guess. But then, with glass shattering, the alarm went off. The noise made me jump, and whoop, that was when the camera just dropped right out of my little hands. Wait, I thought the tourist had mentioned the camera dropping because he pointed out the scuff mark. Thought. And it's been a week. When it hit the floor, there was a big flash, so it probably took some sort of photo. Of course, I got it back to him all in one piece, and before he even noticed. Everything afterwards pretty much the same as I told you before. That's certainly an interesting wrinkle. I may have a few other inquiries to make before I continue investigating this. Whatever you need, detective. Okay, everything is gray, so all done with that. Great. Now let's see. We have something in that button. Turns out the victim did have several things on him at the time of the incident, but the podcaster took it upon herself to requisition them as promo material. Okay, that's the new information there. And in here, now we finally have the page for the podcaster. Potential motive: create a viral-worthy episode of her true crime podcast by committing an actual crime. Before the events unfolded, she was in the courtyard with the tourist discussing retro photography equipment and techniques. The tourist handed his camera to her when he began calling out to the two arguing patrons on the balcony above, hoping to stop their fighting. The fighting continued, however, and when the alarm sounded, the startling noise caused the podcaster to drop the camera. After it clattered to the ground, she recovered the camera and returned it to the tourist. Thankfully, it was completely intact. She rushed into the natural history exhibit where one of the brawling patrons seemingly fell from the balcony above, and the diamond was already missing. She discovered that it was the punk that had fallen. It only took her a moment to search his pockets and steal his belongings. It was then that the guard arrived, to whom she explained the situation before he diverted back to the foyer to call the authorities. So let's look through any of these to see if there's contradictions. And physical altercation, a courier scuffle, disoriented. Podcaster we just read, old timer, nothing. The guard said he arrived to the exhibit at the same time as the podcaster, who upon questioning didn't seem to know much about what happened. But the podcaster said differently. I see, that makes sense. I can give him the benefit of the doubt, but by the podcaster's account, this just doesn't line up. I can't think of an obvious reason he would lie, but it would be best if I asked him directly. And let's look at our evidence. Oh, wait, we have our, we have fell as a verb now, because I saw that, underlined in green. Oh, there we go. They fought in the exhibit. Okay. And eventually the punk. Okay, so we need a location. They fought. In the courtyard? Nope. Oh yeah, because the courtyard balcony. Nope, I didn't think so. But I hadn't used it yet, so... Nope. They fought... Or how do you have courtyard? Unless courtyard was... Let's put exhibit back there. Maybe courtyard was the... Nope. Okay. I think it is courtyard here. Oh, we'll come back to that. Actually, let's see. So now we have the podcaster, so we can finish that part. Podcaster. And this might have been, I might have done this while during an ad, so. Earlier tonight, the old-timer argued in the fine art exhibit with the punk who surprisingly had a gun. Amid the chaos, someone stole, we don't have the word yet, the diamond from the glass case or whatever this is here. Led by the curator, the museum staff also included the loyal guard and the knowledgeable guide. Suspects and witnesses included the eccentric podcaster, the bitter old-timer, as well as the distinguished critic. They also included the anxious student, jolly tourist, and the reserved artist. So, let's see. We already used argued up here. Dropped? Nope. So we know for sure that fought is 1 because that took it from being 1 to 2 incorrect to being more than 2 incorrect. Oh, I didn't mean it. I meant to grab fell. Okay. So fell from the courtyard balcony, I'm pretty sure is the right thing. Let's go back to locations. They fought in the... Might be a word I haven't gotten yet. And we have the evidence. Oh, we haven't looked at this. The flattened tip of a fired bullet found lodged within the broken stone pieces of a museum exhibit. This crushed bullet tip has no signifying features other than its caliber. Considering the size, our most likely conclusion is that it was fired from a pistol, impacted the art piece, and destroyed it. It's yet unclear if that was the intended target, where it was shot from. Okay, that's got a little line through. Yeah, that's got a check mark, and then that's got a line through, and it's not letting me click on it. So, alright, a small collection of items that once belonged to the victim prior to his demise. Requisition from the podcaster. It's a fairly normal set of possessions, including a receipt for admission to the museum, business card, and a bottle of medication. If I want to learn more, I should start by closely examining what I have, then ask around for other insights from various guests. Business card advertises a true crime podcast, presumably given to the victim by the podcaster. Alright, so we've got some medicine there. And there's the receipt. And the card. And it had a little eye. There it goes. Oh, of course. I knew there was something else here. This receipt. Why would he have paid twice? As far as I'm aware, he didn't come in with anyone, right? Since I can't question him directly, I'll have to ask around some more. Alright, have we been everywhere on the map? I think so. Ah. It has a, keyword thing. My brain is not functioning, which is sad since I'm playing a detective game. To go forgetting words. Okay, so that's the fine art exhibit. The sculpture exhibit is a swirly swirly. Let us go. Let's spin around. Hopefully I'm not making you too dizzy. We need to find the there we go. He's got a thought bubble, which means he's got information. Aye, detective. What can I do for you? Let's start with a few questions, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, the only one that's not grayed out is about today's events. You've got the green to go ahead, detective. About the artist. Do you recall having encountered him earlier, perhaps in the courtyard? That's a tough one, eh? The tourist was there, and the podcaster. Oh, you know what? The artist was in the courtyard. Come to think of it, when I was barreling through to get to the brawl upstairs, I nearly tripped over my own two paws. Or so I thought, but now you mention it, yeah, it must have been him I was stumbling over. Such a silly thing for me to forget, ain't it? How convenient. So sorry, detective. I guess my memory was a bit hazy after the whole debacle got out of control. Apology accepted, and understandable. As you know, it's not terribly uncommon. Why don't we discuss something else for now, then? Absolutely. I'm an open book, full of pictures. Podcaster. You saw her in the natural history exhibit. Did you suspect that she could have stolen it then? Initially I did, yes, but she was quick to explain herself, and it all made sense to me. She told me she'd come from the courtyard just a moment prior in response to the sound of breaking glass and a loud thud. That would have been the gemstone being stolen and the victim falling from above. Sorry, yawning. Considering the timeline, there wasn't much she could have gotten up to. I hate to break it to you, but she did have a few moments before you arrived. Not enough to steal the jewel, of course. But she did steal the victim's belongings. Oh no, you don't say. Oh man, I knew I should have been more strict with her. I was just so concerned with calling the police and getting things under control. While your motives were understandable, this could have been avoided with a bit more diligence. Yeah, sounds familiar, detective. I'm sorry about that. And thankful you're setting things right. Ad break is starting soon. I'm working on it, at least. Let's run through a few more questions. Absolutely. I'm an open book full of pictures. About the guide. You mentioned in your testimony that you discovered her in the Antiquities exhibit, stunned from the sound of the gunshot. As much as you know about her condition, do you think it's possible she could have been unaware of your presence in that moment? Oh, I hadn't really considered that, but I bet you're right. I can't reiterate enough how much I really did try to help, but the curators always had a lighter touch, so calling for them was the best call I could make. I agree. I don't think you did anything wrong. I just needed to corroborate the two stories. So thank you for that, but I've got some more questions. No, I don't. I lied. How dare I? Curator has a speech bubble. Maybe we need to go around here. But I don't think I looked at all this stuff in here. While that loads up, time for hydration. Oops, smacking my microphone around. Let's see if I can remember. Detective, I trust the investigation is going well. Of course. I have several things to discuss if we could. 90-second ad break is starting. Yes. About the suspects. I've met them all and started to establish profiles on each. There's someone at the heart of this, and I'll find out who. Yes. Congratulations. Detective, I have the utmost faith in your sleuthing skills, so please continue to work diligently. It's getting late, don't you think? Injustice doesn't sleep, I'm afraid. It takes time to shine the light on truth. Fine. Do what you must. Take as much time as you need, but remember, the very fate of this museum hinges on your ability to resolve this efficiently. I think you mean effectively, Curator? Either way, we should move on to another topic. I would expect nothing less. What camera? I was discussing tonight's events with the tourist, and the topic of his camera arose. Did you not notice he had it on him when he arrived? I absolutely did not. I'm sure you understand, Detective, that recording of any kind within a museum is strictly against policy. Why would guests come visit if they can observe a rudimentary facsimile someplace else? I had a hunch that's what you would say, but it might reveal some important evidence. So I'm going to entertain the prospect for now. The ad break is finishing now. Welcome back from the ad. So we're just talking to the curator, and the curator just confirmed that they did not see the camera when the tourist came in. Which is kind of funny since it's hanging around his neck, but maybe he had stashed as he came in. And I've already forgotten. Camera's minor concern. I agree. Let's discuss more important concerns then. Oh yeah, we confirmed that we've talked to all the suspects. That's the other thing we did during the ad break. About the critic. He said you had requested an article be written. Could you tell me more about that? Detective, I'm afraid I have no idea what you're talking about. Is that so? He said it wasn't the first time. In fact, he said the first one did quite well. I'm sure he did. Why don't you ask the old-timer about that? See if his memory has held up enough to recall that catastrophe. My apologies if this struck a nerve, but for now, I have other topics we should get to. Certainly. You described her as stunned until eventually your efforts to rouse her were successful and she told you to call the authorities. But she described the situation differently, that you failed to calm her and left her there unmoving in order to call the police. She said that, did she? If you recall, I also described her as selfless and to a fault. Let me know she's like a daughter to me. I regret to say that she lied to you, Detective, to save my feathers. For a curator to not prioritize the safety of their guests, or even their exhibits, I believe she intended to maintain my proper image. A noble act, and certainly loyal. But it was still a lie. I'll have to reconvene on that. But for now, we have other matters to discuss. Lots of other matters. Oh, goodness. About the alarm. It's state-of-the-art, awarded on a grant several years ago. It runs through every wall, door, and exhibit. A bit Orwellian, reference to 1984. Oops! I hit the button. I didn't mean to hit the button. I don't see any cameras though. How does it work? That's the beauty of it. It's entirely invisible, reading paw prints on the surface of display stands, glass cases, and frames. And it recognizes registered users, so if I were to rearrange the exhibits, I wouldn't have to worry about disabling the entire system. Of course, the rest of my staff is also registered. Conservators, appraisers, or technicians get temporarily registered as needed too. The guard mentioned a discretionary response system. Do you know anything about that? Vaguely. For instance, putting the doors on lockdown is an early stage response, whereas that atrocious sound is much later. I know that much. I see. If someone stole an exhibit, a noisy alarm would alert everyone, warning the thief that their cover was blown. Of course, if the thief broke into an exhibit to steal it, well, they've already relinquished the advantage of discretion. In that case, the alarmed siren acts more like a warning system to other guests. Starting to see this intelligence you mentioned. Yes, well, I hope it makes closing this case easier for you. Easier and quicker. Easier, perhaps. Quicker? I'm not so sure. I think it's time to retrace my steps towards that broken display again. Before I do, though, I have some more questions, if you wouldn't mind. That is odd. Let's see. I tried. Courtyard's there. He fell from the courtyard balcony. Okay, stole. We have stole now. Stole the gemstone. From the natural history. Because it's two things here. So from the natural history, maybe exhibit or floor. Exhibit. So now we just need this. They fought in the what? Foyer? I knew that wasn't right, but need to try something. Courtyard's already there, and I already tried it anyway. Well, they're in the museum. They fought in the museum. Nope. Let's see. Did I try exhibit? Let's see. It's still got a circle. Okay, can't go there yet. So I think we should be able to... You know, let's just go one word by word, because I'm pretty sure that that's the word that's wrong, and I'm going to be putting in words I know are completely wrong. We know they didn't fight in a desk. They fought in the wall? Maybe they're both courtyard? Nope. Try if they fought in the floor? There wasn't an office. Let's try a different verb, maybe. does make sense. They fought and they argued. And we used argued up there, so fought should be the right one. No. They fought in the exhibit. That should be right. But no, it's not. Okay, we don't need any people. Just by sentence structure. Verb there. In the, that's going to be a noun. Eventually the punk. We know fell, because that's going to be a verb. From the, and then that's location. Courtyard, balcony. On this courtyard, did we already try taking, let's just put a random word here, just to test. So that means that this word was already incorrect? Okay, so... natural history, maybe? And they fought in the courtyard? Ah! I knew I was onto something. I've got the basic details to this case all sorted out and met every suspect. Set the scene, collect your initial findings. Now it's time to really get to work. Okay, well, we need to talk to the tourist about the camera. Nothing for them, but it's weird because I looked at the, oh, you know what I didn't do? Okay, business card advertising for true crime. Seat for admission. It's not letting me open that up again. So I know I already noticed that you paid for 2 admissions, and that should have brought something up with the curator. Guide has nothing. Artist has nothing. Critic has something. You have yet to acquire new attire. I do not approve. Apologies, that's not what I'm here to discuss. I'll give you this one for free, detective. Were you aware that the discussion you shared earlier was taken quite differently by her? Whatever could you mean, detective? It was simply a forum for 2 intellectuals. Perhaps one person's forum is another's arena, especially when such a debate is uninvited. Have you considered that? I can assure you that it was not my intention to debate her. Surely she's been through more treacherous challenges than I could provide. I'm not in a position to make claims one way or another, but I found the disparity in your testimonies important enough to clarify. And worth noting, if your honest response to criticism is defensive, then I suggest you reflect on why that is. How astute and utterly absurd a sentiment. That's my job. Now I have more inquiries to make before I continue my investigation. I lied, I don't. Actually? Okay. Now why isn't it letting me look back at, why didn't I talk to the curator about the receipt? Skip the pleasantries, detective. I don't have all day. I'm sure you don't. Let's get started. This ain't making me any younger, detective. Do you know if the curator requested the critic to come write it today? Huh? No, absolutely not. I'm sure he, sorry. They wouldn't ever ask the critic to do that again. The curator alluded to a previous article. What happened with that? I'll keep the story short since it isn't mine to tell, but between you and I, it wasn't pretty. It was harsh, but perfectly fair. I've heard murmurs it put the museum in a rough spot, but that wasn't our concern. Despite tonight's commotion, the museum seems fine to me. Let's move on for now. How much longer is this going to take? Okay, that's it from him. Oop. Oh, we've got stuff. Let's see, the murdered guest. Knocked over. Turns out the victim did have several things. A complex crime scene, broken statue pieces. Old-timer's initial statement. Okay. Meeting our suspects. Museum in a place. Initial findings. Oh, an interesting pair of eccentric guests. The podcaster and tourist may not be entirely what they seem. Okay, so this one's done. That's what that little check mark... Well, unless that just means that that's the one I'm in. Okay, yeah. The check mark is done. Missing gemstone. Where their stories differed, however, unsurprisingly, centered around the actual camera itself. Collecting some initial statements. Tourists mentioned an accident with their camera and the podcaster, who was also in the courtyard. Tourists swore the camera was simply an accessory. Podcaster was certain it was in active use. According to them, the incident resulted in an accidental photo. Alright, so that lead thing is done. Arrived at the museum, intended to write and publish a critique by request of the curator with the old-timer as a guest perspective on the article. Testimonies, the curator didn't ask. I don't think that's right, not sure why I would lie, but the story hinges on something specific, doesn't it? There we go. Alright, let's look at the old timer. I see. We might have been hoping to write an article about the museum, but that's 2 testimonies against his claim. But why lie about that at all? Perhaps I should pay him another visit and ask. Maybe. Curator discovered the guide. But by the testimony of the guide themselves, I don't think that's right. She has a valid reason for not knowing the full truth here, but someone's cleared it up. Who was it? That one. That one. Considering her condition at the time, there's no way she would have known the guard tried to help her. As far as I can tell, this was just an honest mistake, but worth keeping the record straight nonetheless. Hey. Unsuccessful, left the guide. Would there be any reason for her to hold back the whole story? Wouldn't seem so, but didn't someone have a conflicting statement? Oh, yeah. The, curator. While the curator did leave to call the authorities, it wasn't before successfully rousing the guide from her stun. Was she intentionally trying to throw me, or was she just trying to maintain the curator's reputation? Alright, let's see. I didn't get to ask the curator about the double admission. Is anybody in here from me that needs to talk? That I need to talk to? No, already look at the artist. Not have anything. The guide. Have you put it all together yet, detective? I'm working on it and hoping you might be able to answer a few more questions. I'll try my best. I don't believe you were aware in the moment, but I figured I should tell you. He did try to help while you were in that stunned state. Unfortunately, he didn't know how to help, but called for the curator to come take care of you. He wished he could have done more, he said. Aw, the guard has always been the nicest. If you get a chance, tell him I appreciate it. I'll bring him an extra croissant tomorrow. I'm sure he'll enjoy that. I've got some more details to go over if you wouldn't mind. Sure thing. Curator, according to your testimony, they helped you up to a point and then prioritized calling the police. Unfortunately, they didn't corroborate that. Are you giving me a chance to revise my statement, detective? Okay. Yeah, the curator would never have prioritized the museum over us. At least, not as far as I've ever known. They did help me recover, more than I let on before, and it was my idea to call the authorities. The curator theorized you were attempting to protect their reputation. Is that the case? I suppose it was. I know they come across as a bit prickly, detective, but they do mean well. And they do whatever it takes to support us. I just wish there was a way I could do the same for them. That does seem to be a bit of a trend. There are other topics we have all to get to. No, there aren't. Okay. Where is... Hang on. Okay. Tourist is in the place with the fountain. Yeah, we need to talk to them about the camera. Private eye, he's watching you. Yes, right. Let's get to the topic at hand. About your camera. We've been over that already, haven't we, detective? There ain't much more to say. Well, there's one particular detail I think we should go over again. You weren't using the camera at all tonight, correct? Of course, the curator would have had my head if I was. There ain't any film in there. How come, according to the podcaster, the camera's flash went off when she dropped it? Because a camera does not have to have film to have a flash. You should take a beginner's photography course. Just because a flash goes off doesn't mean it actually took a photo, detective. But if you're so confident in your theory, then how about you check it out yourself? You can take my camera as evidence as long as I get it back. It's empty, you'll see, but full of sentimental value. I'll make a note to return it once the case is closed. Unless, of course, I discover something incriminating. And that should tell you just how much I trust you to do the right thing, detective. Here you go! I appreciate your cooperation. Now, could I get your input on some other topics? Radio! Don't hold back! That would be that. Oh, did I ever look at that? Whoop. The color... This has a no sense in leaving any snow or shrub in this case. Just gotta reach a paw in and rustle some leaves. Oh, what's this? Something's perched with its colt. Feels like metal. Could it be what I think it's casing? A gun casing? Yes! It's casing to match the tip from earlier. I'll have to update the evidence record now that I have both pieces of this bullet. However, the question remains. Where's the weapon that fired it? Ad break is starting soon. As you expect, I've never really been a fan of water, but if my suspicions are correct, I need to do what must be done. Paw into the fountain, detective. Here goes nothing. Oh dear, it's cold and very wet. Ugh, my fur is going to be uncomfortable for the rest of the evening. Aha! There it is. The murder weapon. A smoking dripping gun. Likely fired during the brawl upstairs and dropped soon after. I'll have to look it over to gather more information, then start questioning the various suspects about it too. Alright, so we've got something in everything except for the X one. So first, left button. Museum did recall hearing alarm. Nothing on that. Caught on film. Confronted the tourist. Discussing the tourist camera. I was left with too many conflicting details to ignore. So we're going to get more on that once we open up the evidence locker part. Nothing new there. Okay. It did have... It doesn't tell me much about who fired it or why. Can I even assume the owner pulled the trigger? Alright, and we already did the meeting our suspects. Okay, so that's that. Then evidence locker. So that's done. We can't do anything with that. That's done. Okay, come on, rotate. Rotate! I gotta get to the film in the back. There we go. Ad break is starting. Alright, come on. I know there's gotta be... a way to open this. Where's my little eyeball that says I have more information? Or that I can look closer. Also, it doesn't have a flash. This thing on the top is where a flash would go. Old school camera with manual controls, lenses, and film. The museum has strict rules against taking photographs depending on the exhibits, but the tourist doesn't seem to follow them. This presents an advantage for me because it's possible the camera was used to extract. Ad break is finishing. So I just spent a bunch of time spinning the camera around because I know it's got to be able to like show that it doesn't have any film or something. There should be something. Whoop! Nope. I don't want to do that. And it didn't ever give me the eye to look closer. You've seen on other. Oh. This did though. Wait. Get back. Oh. This started to do that the eye. There it goes. Oh, of course. I knew there was something else here. Thankfully, it's not still loaded. It won't be doing any more harm anytime soon. Although I can't gather much more from this, I'm not a weapons expert. What are the chances someone here would be able to tell me more? Not that. That. Oh, we are on the second tab. Okay, so we know that's got to be in action as they fought. The something. So we need a person and a verb. The punk. Verb. Shot. Object. Shot the gun. Into a, that's going to be another object. Into a sculpture. Or a statue. We're going to put artwork here, but it's probably supposed to be destroyed. Oh, okay. Let's see. Try bullet. Okay, didn't think so. The gun. Nope. Let's try sculpture here. Nope. Let's come back to that. Oh. Private eye. About today's event. You want it? You got it. About the fight. You mentioned you had a pretty clear view, as much as you could from the lower level. Could you tell me more about how that went? You betcha. But I'll tell you now, I don't know why they were fighting. Whatever it was must have been mighty serious, though. Came out on the back balcony swinging. I didn't think he would have had it in him, but that old-timer would not let up. I guess where he was coming from, of course. I get where he was coming from, of course, because the punk had that gun and all, so he probably was thinking there wasn't any room to let up. He must have got a step ahead, struck him once, and got a good shove in. Landed the punk with his back flat against the wall. Oh, according to the other story, the punk got the old-timer against the wall. Concerned they both got hands on the gun and it went off shortly after, it wasn't a sight I would soon forget. An interesting contradiction, it seems. I hope you don't mind. I have a couple more questions I could address before I... Radio! No, I don't. Oh, nope. Interesting. Right? It's interessant. So we don't know who shot the gun for sure. Wait, let's see. Is struggled one of the words? No. Problem is there's too many words missing to have the context of what they're trying to get at. So we know this is going to be an action, and that's all we know it's going to be. We don't know who it wants to be talking about here. How do we remove? Ah, X. Okay, so as we've been talking about the punk and the old timer being but somebody did something. see what we got here. The fight continued, leading to the punk. Yeah, that's right. I was right. Testimony from the tourist. That makes sense. The old timer didn't get shoved into the wall. He was the one doing the shoving. For having such pride, it's hard to believe he would willingly make himself seem weak. I wonder what he has to say about that. I want to clear up the thing with the receipt and the admission for two. I'm going to double check and make sure I did ask the curator all the questions I could ask them. Several things to discuss. Yeah, that's weird. Ah, the guard. I need to have to talk to the guard about something. Additional details about the weapon. I recovered it from one of the courtyard fountains, as well as 2 pieces of a fired bullet. Not sure what more. Well, for starters, this bullet most certainly belongs to that gun. In case that was ever a question. And while I didn't have a clear view from the first floor, I'm fairly certain it was the punk that had their hands on the grip. Wait, did you say you found the gun in one of the fountains? I did, yes. My current operating theory, the old-timer got some sort of advantage against the punk and forced it from his grasp. Makes sense to me, but isn't it a bit far-fetched that the old-timer would have the wherewithal to drop it so precisely? What if they were both disorienting enough? Neither of them could really keep hold of it. That'd explain that precarious stanchion in the courtyard too, eh? Actually, you're right. That does sound more likely. Now I have some other things I'd like to question you about. No, I don't. Alright. Let's see. As far as I can gather, the victim brought the gun and brandished it during an argument with the old-timer. If that's the case, he's entirely innocent, so why hide the truth? Alright. Yeah, I already tried examining it, and it wouldn't let me flip it around and open it. Come on. Like, you can see all the way through it. You can see the desk as I turned. See, it's saying I haven't inspected it. Maybe there's somebody. Maybe I need to talk to the podcaster? Let's see. Podcaster was in antiquities, so back through. There we go. No? There's nothing that... Huh. This is a pedestal with a stolen gemstone once, but wish I investigate the broken case. I have more information about the museum security system now. I should probably take a second pass. I've been assuming the thief used the statue to break open the case because witnesses believe that's what triggered the alarm. There's no denying they heard glass shatter and the alarm blaring, but that doesn't mean it was intentional. When the statue was shot and fell, if it landed into the display case below, the gemstone would have been ripe for the taking, unless it was already gone. According to Kirai's knowledge on the security system, that leaves us with 2 possibilities. 1, the thief opened the case, which looked which locked the museum doors, and the alarm went off later. Or 2, the thief was a registered user with the system, and the doors wouldn't have been locked until the case was accidentally broken later. Unfortunately, there's no way to know which is true right now. Maybe the guard will have further insight on my theory. Timing of the individual events would be a deciding factor, but how will they figure that out? I have to consult an expert or the closest person available. Saying the guard's not an expert. Try to get that. Okay, that's done. That is not. I know I need to check if there is film. See, it won't let me do anything in here unless I get that little eye. But it's not giving me the eye to investigate further, so I don't know what to do. And as we saw before, it can be rather finicky in what angle I have it on. See, this is there. Of course, I knew there was something, or rather, there isn't something here. Sometimes that can be just as important. If I had to bet, there's probably another case of someone's sticky paws. Hey there, detective. I have some questions for you. Please only have subscribe. Just kidding. How familiar are you really with the process of film photography? Not too much, but you can learn anything on YouTube nowadays. Oh, you think it'd uber boost my follower count if I did? Is that why you were so interested in the tourist camera? I've got it right here, but with some bad news. It's empty after all. No film to be found. But he told you it was empty, right? You said that, right? So no surprises there. Of course, after all, photography isn't usually allowed in a place like this. Duh. You're super right. What a shame. Full trail. Anyways, totally moving on. No, humor me for a moment. Let's say he did have film in it. I was taking photos he shouldn't have been. Someone taking it off his guilty conscience would be quite fortuitous, wouldn't you say? Fine, I have it. You can take the film. You're killing me, detective. Just know, I only took it to make some promotional material for my podcast. You gotta always be on that grind. It would have been perfect. I would say I understand, but the bottom line is, I have a case that needs solving. So we should move on to some other inquiries. Then I'll go continue that investigation. Whatever you need, detective. Alright, that still doesn't explain why he had... Why the punk had paid for 2 admissions. I mean, I know because I watched Gabs, but I need to find that piece of information in my own game. Skip the pleasantries, detective. I don't have all day. I'm sure you don't. Let's get started. Yeah. Get on with it. About the fight. There were witnesses that saw it go down a bit differently than you described. Would you like to revise your statement? I don't know what you're talking about. I've got nothing to hide and no reason to lie to the most pathetic authority here. Pathetic, eh? At least I wouldn't admit to having taken a hit. Especially in a fight where I was the only person to walk away. If you're trying to say something, out with it. You falsified your testimony. The punk didn't slam you into the wall, you shoved him in an attempt to disarm and disorient him. And in that moment, the only thing you did was widen the gap, and he was able to get a stronger grip on his gun. Fine, yes. I got too aggressive, but I didn't back down. I kept up the pursuit, because if I didn't, he would have shot me. You know that's the truth, detective, so don't fault a washed-out pup for defending himself, even if he does have a tendency to embellish. Justice has no need for embellishment. I've made note of this, and there's other details I'd like to go over with you. I lied. There are no other details. But the critic has more details. Article. Yes. Did you want to read it? I have an early draft if you'd like. That's interesting, considering the curator was entirely unaware of that request you mentioned. They must be playing coy with you. Or maybe they're just embarrassed that they need my help to keep their museum afloat. But I guess you wouldn't understand, standing on the outside desperately trying to look in. You're trying to change the topic. Did the curator ask you to write that article or not? No, they didn't. They didn't have to. I received an anonymous tip, and I decided to be generous. Fine. It's my turn to change the topic, then. You must. That'll do. Who was in here? Stairs. Okay. Oh, Oh yeah, I got the film. Okay, during the chaotic incident unfolded earlier, this film was used to take an accidental photo. Seeing an opportunity to acquire big clickbait potential, she swiped the film, but I convinced her that submitting the film to evidence is more important now to find a way to actually develop it and see what secrets are still to be revealed. Okay, and why? Okay, we are going to do the second one because I think this one is about the statue falling on the okay, it struck. We need object because it struck. Oh, that's locations. Object. Glass case. And then something, and then broke. It tripped the alarm. Tripped the alarm. Now this is just me. It's not me even remembering from Gab. Okay, so there's only a couple words wrong there. Maybe destroyed? Yes, okay. And let's see. Maybe this is... Alright, so because it's talking about the statue there, or have they been calling it a statue or a sculpture? So clarifying the antecedent, that's going to be that. As they, that's going to be a verb. Okay, as they fought. The old timer. Shoved. punk into a wall. So, causing the statue to be shot. Soon after, the ad break is starting soon. Drop the gun. And into a fountain. Drop the gun from the location from the balcony. And into a fountain. Dropped. Oops. Wrong buttons. There we go. The tourist looked on. Another ad break. As the podcaster, accidentally dropped. We're using dropped a couple times, which is weird. Dropped his object camera, which took a don't have the word yet. Okay. When it hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. Hit? No? Okay, don't have the word yet. Podcaster then stole. It's film. Ad break is finishing now. Okay. Artwork, camera, computer, door, film, glass case, painting, phone, statue. Nope. Hit. Okay, by this time the blank had okay, that's gonna be an action. Somebody had done something, but the was already let's see. We already have the bit about shoving the punk into the wall, so that's not going to be that. Let's see. I think we need to talk to tourists some more about the camera and the film, maybe. There. No? Okay, we've got something here. Cause for alarm when discussing the jewel with guard, mention stage of art. Yeah, I know it wants me to talk to the guard. Alright, I'll go talk to the guard. What can I do? Start with a few questions, additional details, standing by for inquiry about the alarm. I look back over the crime scene with special attention to the pedestal, and I have a theory I'd like to run by you. I believe that when the display case was broken, the gemstone was already missing. From everything you know about the security system, would that be possible? I suppose it could be, Detective. That'd be quite the twist. The issue I'm having with the theory is how to actually prove it. Without more carefully defined timing, it's impossible to know for sure. Well, the security system has an interface you could access in our maintenance room, but I can't provide that kind of clearance. That's something you'd have to get the curator's approval for, since it's private business and all that. I was hoping it wouldn't come to that, but if that's what it takes, I'll give it a shot. Until then, I think I might have a few more things. No. Okay. Just the eye poking out from the side of the pillar. Ah, Detective. I trust the investigation is going well. Of course. I have several things to discuss, if we could. You know what? Garden eye. The back room, the guard mentioned while we were discussing the security system. I believe access could help crack this case if you'd allow it. Preposterous. Everything that happened tonight took place within the public space. No one had access to the maintenance room tonight. Tonight, sure. What if all this was set in motion prior? What would you say then? As far as I know, and you could prove, that punk came in to drum up trouble, and some other opportunist saw fit to seize their chance. So what would I say to that, you ask? I would still say no. I hope you understand that if I find another means of access, I will have to defy your wishes. And if I find something important there, you could be held liable for obstruction. Then so be it. Now move along. I will, of course, but right now there are other things to discuss. I don't know why it's not giving me the chance to ask about the receipt. We have something over here. Registered users, smash the exhibit. It's possible the thief had already stolen it by then. I have a feeling this is going to crack our case wide open. Find a way into this maintenance room. While discussing the stolen jewel with the guard, he mentions state of the art. Caught on film. Because that's the thing, is sometimes I have to actually look at some of this stuff in order for it to register and allow me to do the next step. It didn't have the film inside, but only because it was ejected during the incident stolen by the podcaster. Its current form, however, that isn't much help. Perhaps someone in that department can have it developed. After too many conflicting details surrounding the camera, the tourist submitted the camera to evidence. Not typical behavior of a guilty suspect, but helpful. Okay. The murdered guest. Museum doesn't employ more than 2 people. Not including. So, taken my initial findings and built out profiles for each suspect. But that's just the beginning. Not a parasocialite. Interesting pair. Upon taking his arrival at the... Okay. Wait, oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. I'm on the suspects, not the murdered guest. There we go. Initial investigations have presented a complex crime scene. It's gun was fired during the struggle and dropped in the fountain. Old-timer's initial statements knocked over. Turns out victim did have. As far as why he tell the truth, they weren't the most forthcoming. Plenty of details omitted. Thief took destructive measures to steal the jewel, or did they? Curator's primary and only concern. On film, cause for alarm. Okay. Let's see if that one thing for the tourist is still blank. Prior to the incident, when the altercation broke out, as they were fighting over a gun, it was fired. Effort to block dropped his camera. The guard came running into the courtyard, but didn't stop. Decided to escape. Entered the museum. He did not pay admission. Overheard the argument. Upstairs. Entered the museum alone. Okay. This is what I'm missing. Evidence. Admission receipt. That makes sense. He did enter alone, but with one extra detail. He paid. Anyone would assume this is an act of kindness. But can we claim that for certain? Now I can talk. Detective. I trust the investigation is going well. Of course. I have several things to discuss if we could. Before... About admission. Specifically, that paid by the victim earlier tonight. He was charged for 2 entrants. Was he accompanied by anyone? No, he wasn't. That's when I started to suspect he was up to no good. And I was correct, of course. Why would he have paid for 2? I hope this wasn't malicious on your part. It was no mistake. When I told him there was a charge for admittance, he said he would pay for himself and whoever comes in next. That's all. Just to clarify, he didn't know there was a cost to enter, but he was willing to pay for 2? I didn't think much of it, Detective. It seemed to surprise him, so perhaps he didn't want that to happen to someone else. Did it betray my initial impressions of his character? Sure, but he confirmed them soon after with all this mess he's caused. It does seem that way. But we can never be so sure. By chance, do you remember who came in next? That nervous one with the backpack. I tried to explain the situation to him, but with all that stammering, I don't think he heard any of it, which is why he thought it was free to come in. Intriguing. Why don't we move on for now? Would expect nothing less. Okay. Okay, let's look at the rest of our books and everything to make sure that we're not missing anything else that will open up dialogue and give us more clues, or at least more information. After it clattered to the ground, she recovered the camera, returned it to her. Thankfully, it was completely intact, but it wasn't. It was just scuffed. It was scuffed. That makes sense. Yes, she returned the camera, but not without a case of sticky paws. In an attempt to get more promotional material for her podcast, she swiped the film while the tourist was distracted. Okay. Security system does log every interaction it witnesses, but without direct access, I can't learn more. He was reluctant to give me his keys. Okay. Anything else in the caught on film? Okay, I thought the laser pointer thing was cool. There we go. But it's getting a little annoying when it's not in the right place. Okay. In current form, perhaps someone at the department can have it developed. If you remember, we talked to the goose last week, and the goose said that we could call on the department, so we can do that. Especially since we've got that with the red writing, which tells us it's important. Okay. Took the measures. Okay. We're just gonna look at all these tabs to make sure we're not missing anything. And oh, it's after 9. Alright. They weren't most fired, struggle, fountain. Okay. We're just gonna real quick see if anybody else has a dialogue bubble. Okay. Is there anybody actually on this floor? Like, if all the stuff took place down below, or out here, it took place. This doesn't really. Unless, okay, so they fought and maybe hit the wall there. The blood trail began, presumably someone was shoved against the wall, and the brawl could have continued west. That's all I can gather from here. And then we go in here. Okay, that's where they are. We go over here. But oh yeah, he could see from down there because it overlooks. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Okay, because you could see the tourist. All right. Just trying to get a picture of everything. Okay, so these both have balconies, essentially. Because there you can see the tourist, and he watched the fight when they were fighting in here in the fine arts. And that's where the being slammed into the wall happened. Then they went out there. Okay. That's making a little more sense. Alright, let's see if we can get anything in the book. Wrong book. This one. Alright. The tourist looked on. The podcaster accidentally dropped his camera, which took a photo when it hit the floor, but maybe when it struck the floor. Yeah, we still don't have a... By this time, that's gonna be an action there. Something had link into the... Yeah, I'm not gonna... No. It's after 9. I do want to see if I'm right about being able to call and get the film going. Okay, good. There we go. I guess I could give the police department a call. There's probably someone on their last shift about now. Can't forget to expense this charge, though. Payphones aren't getting any cheaper these days. I wonder how many people still, like, okay, lots of people, but like, people who have been... I can't phrase it right. Payphones are a thing of the past. Everybody has cell phones now. Hope the case is coming along. Ah, we're talking to somebody on the other end. Okay, so let's get a... I'm not gonna do it. I can't do a voice. Detective! Hope the case is going along smoothly. What can I do for you? About the film. I found a reel of camera film that might be important to the case. There's equipment at the station to develop it. Could you send someone to pick this up for me? Oh, absolutely, Detective. In fact, I'll just come do it myself. Okay. Wow. That was quick. Sorry about that. The wait, Detective. I came as fast as I could. I think you arrived in record time, so no need to apologize at all. Here's the film. Do you know how long it will take to develop? Not sure. Someone in the lab will take care of it. And you know how they are. Don't worry. After a while, we should have a photograph. I needed that word. I won't really have any way to let you know when it's done, but you can always call. Ain't no issue there. Well, I've got no shortage of threads to pull on, so I'll put this to the bottom of the list for now. Thanks again. No thanks necessary. Just part of the job. Good luck. Oh, I won't need luck. Let's get back to it. I needed that. Which took a photograph. Object. Photograph. Yes! Yay! This, I have no idea. By this time, the had into the butt was already, so he... Let's look at our action words. Maybe not. He was already... Something was already... I wonder if this is... It's not going to be a student. I don't know. I don't know. And as I've been saying for the last 8 minutes, it's after 9, so I am going to wrap up there. Let's go at least back into the museum. Oh, wait. I guess it wants me to see that I had another word, possibly? Or it's telling me I have enough to fill that out. I mean, there's so much it could be. Like, it could be about the student hiding in the whatever room the student's in. Okay, let me get back into here. Oh, there's also that there. It's this is kind of addictive. I don't really want to stop, but it's late and I need to. Okay. During the struggle, as far as I can gather, victim brought bandaged. I had the truth. Missing gemstone. Caught on film. Submitted the film to evidence despite the podcaster's wishes to keep it to use for clickbait and to generate a viral moment. That's probably what was new for in there. Yeah, I think that means that this is ready for me to do. Let's see. We're still missing something here. We entered the museum alone, but paid for advanced admission for the student, then started touring the museum. Let's look at our verbs, because I think that does mean that we have all the words. Somebody had already There's only so many that fit there. Somebody had something had hacked into the alarm? But I don't think, cause we haven't seen anything about the alarm being hacked. There's only so many things that fit there. Had retreated? Tripped into? It's not technically an incorrect, it's not technically incorrect grammatically, but it doesn't really fit colloquially. Had retreated into the fallen? The bullet, maybe? Do we have... Wait, it's fallen. Had fell, that's... close as it's got. So, dropped is a word that fits there. Hacked, or retreated, and shoved. But shoved needs a subject, and we already have the stuff with the old timer shoving the punk into the wall. So shoved isn't the word there. Time the okay. Let's go. Student had retreated into. Where was the student? Student was in the antiquities? I know I need to wrap up, but that circled Y is bugging me. Let me see. Plus, it would be nice to finish off a tab and have that be my stopping point for the night. Okay, where am I? I'm in the foyer. Ad break is finishing now. Welcome back! I'm still trying to figure out that last sentence. And using all my English teacher... I'm not an English teacher. I went to school to be an English teacher. And just never actually became a teacher. But I still have the English teacher knowledge to try to determine what goes in what blank, at least what type of word. Antiquities is the vase. Okay. So, through the fountain. On this floor. There we go. Oh! Tourist has something. Private eye. About this film. Where'd you find that, detective? I give him a different voice every time. Funny coincidence, right? Considering I've got your camera and evidence and all. You know, the one that you assured me didn't have. And surely this film wouldn't fit it. Oh, wow. Would you look at that? It fits just right. The film that I just gave to the police to have it developed. Like you said, just a silly coincidence. If I have to spell it out any further, I might have grounds to charge for contempt. Is that what you're going for? Alright, you got me. Not only did I have film on my camera, I may have taken a few photos. I didn't think it would have been that important. I was just trying to save my hide if word got back to Curator. You understand that, right? Obscuring the truth for personal gain? I can't say I do, although not the first time I witnessed it. I mean, all's well that ends well, at least. If it helps solve this case, I'm relieved you found out. Could turn out to be incredibly important. Yes. Let's move on to more questioning, shall we? Radio. Or we shan't. We shan't. Okay. Alright. So it was the artist in antiquities. Where was that student? No, fine art is the place with all the balconies and everything. Okay. The guide has something to say. Have you put it all together yet, Detective? I'm working on it and hoping you might be able to answer a few more questions. Additional details. I'll try my best. Why was it lit up if nothing? Let's try that again. Additional details. What do you want to know? About the back? I must have not been on the right line. I've discussed it with the guard and believe it would be incredibly important to solving this case. Would you be able to take me there? It's staff only, though. Do you already have the curator's permission? For the purposes of our conversation now, let's assume, yes, I do. Well, come to think of it, it wouldn't matter either way. And why is that? I embarrassingly misplaced my keys a week ago, so I can't actually get into the maintenance room. The curator said they were going to have a replacement made for me soon, but in the meantime, the guard lends me his as needed. Sorry, Detective, not much help on this front. Maybe you could borrow the guard's keys, too? That may not be as easy as you'd think. Why don't we discuss something else instead? Or not. Okay. So we are in... What room are we in? Sculpture. That's right. Sculpture. But... That would be two words like sculpture exhibit. Okay, so he alright, head in the no. If I knew who this was talking about, retreated into the... But the... The alarm was already tripped. So it's not going to be about the student. verb could be there. Alarm already tripped. That sounds... That seems right there. Okay, we need a verb there. Something that you could do in somewhere. Tripped, stole, shoved in the... Oh. Hid. Maybe it is a student. So let's go student. And we're in the sculpture sculpture. And the student had where did he go before? Because he was talking about had retreated into the. We need something that's just a one-word location. Okay, we know. So now let's do process of elimination to see who they're talking about. Secretary or tourist, right? So we know that student was not the incorrect word there. Okay, so now let's go to the verb. It's got to be something it can be into. Tripped into? No. Fell into? No, I think what we have wrong is the location. So, had retreated into the... and I'm just gonna add words. Yeah. So, what did I have there? Foyer? Okay, so we know that foyer was right. Okay. Right. So now we know retreated was correct. Okay, so let's try. Let's see if we're right about the alarm. Well, let's say phone. Phone here. Oh. So the alarm was not the... Removing the word alarm from there did not change it. Oh, but they did an update so that things can have more than one answer, and I think that actually makes it more difficult because it takes away... the ability to do the process of elimination. Alrighty. No, I think alarm tripped. is the right thing here. So he... Yeah, let's change this. That doesn't change anything. Get back to head. Oh, the alarm was already... tripped. Okay, so we know it's not stole. Locations. Wait, isn't this the... Yeah. Oh, sculpture exhibit would be the actual thing, so... sculpture... floor? No. I already tried natural history here, didn't I? Yeah, so sculpture's correct. Should be right. Well, this time the student had retreated into the foyer. The alarm was already tripped, so he hid in the sculpture exhibit. Maybe it's not. Okay, let me talk to him. I was just seeing the future because I could do that. So you're telling me you came to the museum knowing this would happen? No, I don't know how to answer that. Just seeing if it will, because I graduate and immediately land a 7-figure job. Already set for an eternal. Change topics. Today's events. What were you doing? Like I said, I came in a few hours ago and eventually wound up in the natural history exhibit. I could hear an argument upstairs, but it didn't really concern me much, at least not at first. They must have made their way out to the courtyard balcony because I could hear them getting louder. That's when the evening turned sour. I see. Okay. That doesn't help. Okay. Out of this. Okay. He entered the museum, paid admission. Makes sense. Student just stumbled into a bit of luck. Why lie about it? He didn't say he paid. I mean, say every time you say that, additional details. Is this a test? I've never been good at tests, detectives. About admission. What about it? There's no fee or anything, right? No. In this case, someone had come in before you and paid in advance, actually. And I said that in a mouse's voice. Oh, hey, call it luck, eh? Right? That kind of thing never happens to me. So, you weren't aware of who paid it? No, didn't think anything of it. Just went on my way, waiting for that date, like I said before. Well, it turns out that the generous patron was caught in this chaotic situation, and unfortunately, it cost them their life. What? Detective, I lied. Okay, I lied to you. I didn't come in for a date, and I do know who paid my admission. The punk, he was my friend, my best friend. Aww. So please, could you tell me what happened? He and another visitor got into an argument. Ultimately, he fell from the balcony on the natural history exhibit. It seems to have been fatal. Uh-oh. Okay, detective. You can ask a couple more questions if you really need to, but after that, I'd like a few minutes to myself. Of course. In the meantime, I'll continue to investigate the details of the brawl. Goes without saying, perhaps, but I'm sorry for your loss. Okay, detective. You say so. Okay. Another thing of not looking in the right place to see the red circles. Alright. So, stolen by the podcast. Okay, let's look at each thing. Discussed with the curator, they weren't well versed. Recognized registered users. I have a feeling this is going to crack our case wide open. Find a way into the maintenance room. Someone smashed this exhibit to steal the gem. While discussing the stool, guests in the museum recall hearing an alarm. According to the guard's security system, yeah, caught on film. Anything new there? Stolen. Wait for results. Okay, missing gemstone. Nope, up here. Thief took the destructive member. Okay, did they? So, no. Murdered guest. That did have more stuff. Got the person falling there and everything. Fired during the struggle. Old timer's statements. Collect more evidence. As far as I can gather. Victim brought the gun and brandished it during an argument with the old timer. Wraps up a few errands. Reservoirs filled. Details unknown. Particularly the victim's assailant. Pressing the student further on their association with the victim proved my suspicions. They may not have arrived together, but they did intend to be here together. Interesting. Amidst the struggle, they fired the gun, missed his target. Old timer then disarmed him with ease. Testimony from the tourist. Don't think that's right. Feels like another. Okay. Maybe evidence where we found the gun. Okay. Yeah, the brackets aren't showing up when I first opened after I've already been there. Let's see. Guard? I can confirm now the gun was fired only as an accidental result of the brawl. When it went off, both men were so disoriented, neither kept hold on the weapon or pursued the fight much further. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else that I haven't looked at. Okay. And we've looked. Oh, that's where I just was. We've looked at everything in evidence. So now maybe. It still doesn't help me figure out what this is. Because we're pretty sure that was the student there. Let's just put something else here. Yeah, definitely student goes there. And then for the verbs, there's only so many verbs that work there. Had tripped? No. Retreated? Yes. We already tried moving foyer. Let's see. Maybe it's not alarm tripped. The punk was already... We already have tripped there. The punk was shoved. Okay, why is that not... The museum was locked. That break is starting soon. Oh my gosh, it's almost 10 o'clock. I really need to wrap this up. Alright, we'll pick it up here next week. Maybe with a fresh mind, we'll be able to figure out what goes in there. Or see something that I didn't see before. Anyways, until next week, take care of yourselves and each other, and donate plasma. Bye!